Welcome to the Effortless Swimming Podcast. My guest today is Mr. Sam Ashby, the OG, and I'll explain why in a second. Hey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Brenty. Nice to be here.
So the reason I called you the OG is because in 2008, I recorded the first product that we ever released, which was a freestyle course called Mastering Freestyle. And you were the swimmer, you were the star in this course. And this is when you were back competing at a national level, and you ended up making the Australian team. And you were there 2008, 15 years ago. I can't believe how much time has flown. And what's, I guess, happened in those 15 years is, well, you made the Australian team, which was fantastic. You've also coached and had people achieve national medals, and now you're coaching with us. You're running our flyback and breast clinics, and we've just finished filming our flyback and breast courses as well. So it's great to have you on the team and working together, and also just learning from you and your expertise, because you terrific swimmer when you're swimming competitively, and also a well-experienced coach, very thoughtful coach. And I've enjoyed just watching you work with the swimmers at the clinics and helping them improve. And the feedback that I've got from a lot of the parents, especially in breaststroke, I think that's like your real strength. Like, you've had swimmers who have come to clinics and won national gold medals. They've medaled or finaled at state championships. And I think the results that you've got with a lot of those kids who have come to clinics have been unreal. So what I want to talk about on this clinic is fly back and breast. I know we talk mostly about freestyle because a lot of triathletes listen to this and open water swimmers listen to this, but it's good to do other strokes. It's good to do some backstroke to get the arms going in a different direction, the body moving differently. And you can certainly learn and develop feel for the water with the other strokes. So I think it's useful as some recovery, useful as developing your swimming. So even if you're not doing much of these other strokes, I want to have this as a really actionable podcast so that people can listen to this and take some key things away, so that when they get to the pool next time, they're a bit more comfortable, a bit more efficient swimming these other three strokes. So that's my goal on the podcast today. So after that long-winded intro, do you want to give a bit of a background on your swimming journey? Because we grew up together as kids. We were down in Gippsland for a couple of years swimming together. So that's how we met. Yep. And then you moved to Melbourne after that. So we've known each other for a very long time, and you've had a long career in swimming competitively and coaching. So do you want to just go through that?
Yeah, for sure. First, I love working with you, mate. It's the best thing about swimming for me was always being part of a great team. Because, results come and go. You have good meets, you have not so good meets, you have good seasons, you have not so good seasons. But when you've got a really tight team around you, that makes a difference. That makes the hard work fun. So, being able to work with you on Effortless Swimming again is a pleasure. Going on, just the car rides we have, or the flights, or missing a flight, and then being able to talk about it. So. Yeah, no, that's good. And I just want to, ironically, like the first ever freestyle clinic, or not clinic, sorry, but the product, Mastering Freestyle, my butterfly was faster than my freestyle. So I have a faster 100 butterfly PB than I do 100 freestyle PB. So I'm glad you've moved on from my freestyle.
What was your 100 fly PB?
52.1.
52.1.
Yeah, 52.1 at the semi-finals of the World Championships in Shanghai in 2011.
What do you think you could do now?
If I could break a minute, I'd have to put some effort into breaking a minute. But actually, I missed the Olympics in 2012. I had a sort of a pathway before missing, not before missing, but leading up to the competition. It was I make the World Olympic Games and continue swimming, or I miss the Olympic Games and I travel with my brother through Europe. And so I missed the games, but then had the consolation prize, you could say, of being able to travel with my brother and my best friend through Europe for 8 months. So that was my consolation prize. But when I was away overseas, I got to have some really nice reflection on the sport, and I still love the sport. I still love the people involved with the sport. I love the fact that it's once you're in the pool, you're in next to nothing. You're practically naked, aside from some bathing material and your goggles and cap, and you earn respect and credit through being a good teammate and through working hard. Not who you are or what you're wearing or what your job is. So I find the pool is a great equalizer. Um, and so that's a nice aspect of the sport that I love to be involved with. It doesn't matter yet what background you're from. Are you a good teammate? Can you train hard? They're the two things that people like the most when you're in the pool. So yeah, got into coaching, coached at MLC, had some really good success. I had a state squad and transitioned that into a national squad. Then went over and worked with our good friend Ash Delaney, who's now in Sunshine Coast, doing absolutely amazing things up there. So we coached together for 2 years, and again, working with your friends is just a ball. And then I moved down to Geelong and was the head coach of Geelong Swimming Club for 4 years. And that was tough work, but it was really rewarding. Taking a squad of 3 national swimmers at the time up to a squad of 17 national swimmers, and just the momentum that you get from that. And I couldn't have done it without another coach, Lucky Wirrakoti, who's a very good friend and my sort of mentor and idol as well. So we used to kind of like what you and I do. We'd go over to each other's houses. We would banter, we would talk, we would plan. And then, yes, I had four good, tough years of that. And then middle of last year, I finished up. Unfortunately, I was just a bit burnt out. To like 4 o'clock get ups, like most mornings, 8 o'clock get homes at night, working during the day, working on the weekend. And I didn't want to leave the sport disenchanted or not enjoying it or not being in love with it, because I do love it. So I wanted to keep it that way. So finished up not really knowing what I was going to do. And then obviously just conversations with you and myself, and opportunities arise, and here we are.
Yeah, and I was speaking to my dad about this too, because he was your coach growing up, like he was mine,
And a
and so
second father and a mentor for sure. Love Brian Ford. Hi,
so
Brian.
so I'm sure he's going to listen to this as well. So
I hope so.
hey, Dad. And yeah, we were chatting when you resigned, and you said, it'd be a great waste for you to not be in swimming still, just with your knowledge and experience. So it's been awesome to have you being able to work with swimmers still. And I think like what we do with the technique clinics, we do the filming, do the analysis, and it's just a very intensive couple of hours where we're working just on technique, where you can have a big impact on someone, and you can just deep dive into technique, which is very hard to do with a squad of 15 to 20 swimmers, and they're primarily there for the workout. So we run small group clinics, maximum 6 swimmers, so you can really have hopefully that that impact on someone in those couple of hours that they can then take away and practice. And especially for a lot of the juniors that you're coaching at these clinics, that can help just change the course of their stroke and their swimming, hopefully a couple of degrees, and that can actually have big results down the track. And from what you in our conversations, you're really enjoying that side of things, being able to just be there and have that impact, so that and just using all of your experience that you've built up over time, that knowledge you've built up over time, and even continuing to refine that, working with lots of different swimmers and things like that.
Yeah, like refining, I think is a key word there. It's having the opportunity to refine your knowledge, because when you're a head coach and when you're in charge of a large group, 20 swimmers, 30 swimmers, 40 swimmers, that's just managing. Really, you're just managing a group. You don't get to and when I say exploit, I don't mean a negative exploit. I mean exploit like what you have. You don't get to exploit your knowledge, and I'm 100% a better coach now than what I was a year ago, because like anything, if you get to really hone in on one aspect, like if you think of a sport, let's say swimming, you don't just do underwater filming and technique. You do pace sets, you do weekly planning, you do macro micro cycles and all those sorts of things. So it's been a real pleasure to hone in on just technique and particularly underwater footage, and refine what I know and find out what works. Because I love a all coaches love progressions, and you're trying to just find what is the best or most efficient progression, and where you can have the most impact. So it's been a real joy for me to come out of the sport and feeling like, like I didn't feel like I was just tired, so I didn't feel like I could have that like impact. And I love being happy, like everybody does. Like I like being a happy, joyous person. So to be able to now be back in the sport and be happy and exploit the knowledge and refine it at the same time has been a pleasure.
Mm. And uh, and you were saying as well, like with the underwater filming that you've been doing at the clinics, you're picking things up that you wouldn't have seen above the water, things that you wouldn't have picked up just watching it at normal speed. And it's such an eye opening thing, isn't it? When you're just going frame by frame through a video, and it becomes really clear what the issue is for someone or the mistake that they're making, and you can then show it to that person and go, okay, yeah, that's the issue. But it's very hard to pick this stuff up from the pool deck, looking at 45 degrees in full speed.
Yeah, 100%. And then having like, you might have like 5 seconds eyes on that person, and then you get like, you'll dart to the next person, you have 5 seconds eyes on them, and then you'll be like, hey, Bob, you're dropping your elbow on your left arm, like keep a high elbow on that catch. But then like don't get the opportunity. Like you give them the information, but then you don't state, you can't, like some coaches do, and that I guess that's a difference. But like you're trying to give everybody something to work on, but working with the clinics, you give them something, you show them what they're doing, and you show them, and then you slowly build them up. You build their knowledge base. You go, this is what it feels like when you're dropping that elbow, and this is what it feels like when you hold your elbow up higher, or whatever it is you're working on, and then having that sequence of drills to go, okay, this is because you can do. I love saying, as I said to the kids, like, because mainly obviously with the form strokes, I'm working mainly with the kids. Every now and then we have adults, but it's mainly with the kids. And the adults are really good because they have a bit more awareness of their body. But with the kids, they need to be shown and guided a bit more with what it feels like to do things. So you can do the same drill, or one drill can have 6 or 7 different focuses depending on what you need to work on.
Mm.
It could be a timing thing, like let's say single arm backstroke. You might need to work on your catch, or maybe your catch is really good, but the end of your stroke is a little bit slow. So you can focus on like the push and release. So having the drill sequence that we've been working on and I've been working on, is really good, because it's like, all right, if you have this issue, you can do this drill and focus on this area. But then if you have another issue, you can still do the same drill but focus on this area. And the kids having that one-on-one attention and having the visual of the underwater filming to go, I get it now. Because in squad situations, you have your set, and you've got to try to work within the set that the coach designs for everybody. Whereas with our clinics, it's 6 people, and you can stop and start. And if you're unsure, you can put your hand up and you can refer back to things. And the pace is a little bit slower.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of times you'll say terms if you're in a squad. You'll use terms as a coach that the kids might not fully grasp or actually understand what it is and what they need to do. So it can take quite a bit of time to just go through that and have them actually understand it. So I think that's a big benefit of it as well. And what I want to move into now is just I want to touch on some common mistakes that you've seen across the board at clinics for fly, back, and breast, because with the freestyle clinics that I've run for the last 9 years or so, some very common themes do occur. And that gives us a good way of understanding what most people are doing and giving them some direction on what to work on. So let's start with butterfly. What are you seeing there?
Oh, don't know if you heard my doggy there. He's having a bit of a bark.
He wanted
Probably
to chime
someone
in.
out the. Yeah, I'll bring him in. All right, I'll keep it at two things for each stroke. And if sometimes I'm greedy though, so I might try to fit a third thing in. But so for butterfly, I would say it's breathing for one. So either breathing too early. So I'll just move back a little bit here. So if like the swimmers are landing with their arms out the front, they'll either lift their head first and sort of drop their arms down, and then lift their head out. So then they change their body position. It's too sharp. So you want to like have a really flat, like nice undulating fly. But if you lift your head, your elbows tend to drop down, and the pressure, instead of catching that way, you end up pushing on the water down because your head is up. So the timing of the breath is really important. So like keeping a neutral head position, like catching or as you catch and apply the pressure back to push behind past your feet, you tilt your chin forward to breathe. Or they're pulling on the water and then they're lifting their head and trying to get their arms over at the same time. So that would be that's the most impactful issue that I see with the butterfly technique.
And how are you changing that with them?
So it's trying to identify where to take the breath, and well, even go back from that. It's identifying that or giving them the opportunity to feel what they're doing. So half the time they don't even know that they're lifting their head. You know, with most people, it's like they don't actually know technically like why their timing's out or what's going wrong. So trying to get them to go, I did notice that I lift my head. And so that's the first step, is always the recognition of what you're actually doing. I don't like to try to change anything without them knowing why they need to change it or what it feels like, what they're doing, why they're consciously going, oh yeah, I do. My eyes are looking forward, so my head's up. And then, so from a drill point of view, like doing butterfly pull throughs, so like starting freestyle kick, and it's just a butterfly pull through, and then they'll recover underneath their body, right? And then, so do that to start with, so they get the feeling. You want to catch first, then press through and out the back. Okay, and then where do you want the breath? You want to initiate like a breath between like as you're catching to like maybe just when you've caught and you're pressing underneath your body. So between like initiating the catch and when your hands are underneath your body is when you want to initiate the breath. So just the butterfly pull throughs, and then from there you can you might like work on single arm butterfly, right? And so like single arm butterfly, 1,000 different things to focus on, but you can focus on your breath timing with just one arm, so you're not getting as fatigued having to do two arms, so you can get more repetition in.
And that's the thing, it's such a high strength stroke, like it requires a lot of strength. It's very fatiguing. So just breaking it down with some drills and having that single focus with whatever drill it is a great way to start to make that transition. So that's a good one. So the breath timing with butterfly. What's the second one?
Probably. There's like so some. This is where I'm going to be a bit cheeky. So like maybe like people like coming in and like hitting their hands together, and then like kind of maybe diving down into the water, and then almost taking like a breaststroke stroke out. So you kind of just want to land shoulder width apart with your thumbs slightly down. So then from that position, you can hook straight away. Whereas if you bash your hands together, the point from there to there is almost dead space. You don't get much power unless you're extremely flexible. Like I had the luxury of being flexible, not so like I still am now, I guess, but like for most people, being able to put their arms up behind their head is quite difficult. So yeah, you just want to land shoulder width apart. But I would say the rhythm, which is a really hard one to get. The rhythm in butterfly, the timing, I would say is probably of all the strokes the most difficult to get, because it requires that strength, and because you can't just do lap after lap of butterfly like you can with breaststroke or you can with freestyle or backstroke. You just can't get as many reps in. So trying to learn the rhythm of butterfly, which is like, and then like the flexibility, there's so many moving parts in the rhythm of butterfly. Like kick when your hands enter, but you want to have the flexibility to be able to like have your arm land behind your head rather than your arm falling in front of you, and then kick when you exit, and then using that kick to push the hand and throw the arm over. So then you'll ask me, all right, Sam, how do you work on that? And that is probably the biggest challenge in the clinics, is to, and within within 40 minutes, try to get them used to, for those that struggle with the rhythm, how do we do it? Start off with the fly kick first, because the fly kick, they're gonna want to have like a nice, so like arms above head. You know how you do like a freestyle kick with your arms above the head for the freestyle clinics? Well, similar thing for butterfly. So arms above head, just get the feeling of kicking from your chest and out your toes, and trying to have a constant rhythmic kick rather than like a kick and then stop, kick and then stop. And then let's go back to single arm. So you're going to breathe to the side. So I like breathing to the side because it just makes, you want to make the drill as easy as possible to have an impact for what you want to focus on. So I don't like doing single arm breathing to the front unless I want to focus on the breath timing, because it's quite difficult swimming fly breathing to the front. So breathe to the side and then focus on the rhythm. So as you enter, kick, glide, take the stroke, kick again. So like you're getting the rhythm with one arm. Same drill, different focus.
And the answer there is, it's like progress through it. Don't try and just swim and then try and get your rhythm. Build it up from an easy starting position and then progress through there. And as I was putting together all of these drills that that we filmed for the courses that we've got on our website now, it's one of the things that I liked when I was going through the actual video is like the hand exit, like making sure that I can't remember the terminology that you used, but it was like about sort of pressing back, but you're just looking to like sweep the hands.
I think
clearing the hips. That's a good one. Yeah, clearing the hips. So as the hands push back, you're clearing the hips to help them come over, because people often they either get a bit stuck there and then they can't get their arms over, or people are actually like really wide at the back of the stroke, and that is a strength thing. But so many swimmers are doing their catch, and then their exit is like 30 centimeters wide of the hips. Like there's no power there, and they're not finishing far enough back. And obviously, yes, it requires strength, but if you can clear the hips like you're talking, it just helps transition into that nice recovery. And I see a similar thing in freestyle where people are typically pushing back too far and they get stuck and their arms straight and they haven't cleared the hips, and then they have trouble getting over, and the whole rhythm is out of.
Yeah, and they kind of like muscle, like they have to like use, instead of using because it's all about momentum, right? Rhythm and momentum, all strokes. So if you stop your momentum or your rhythm by like pushing back and leaving your arms by your hips, you'll then have to use your muscles to then pull your arm over. It doesn't matter if it's fly or free, but if you're using the momentum of pressing through and then pressing out the back and press and lift, that's easy momentum to get the arm up. And then all you need to do is just have a light press, say for freestyle or fly. Fly, you want to try to throw the arm over. Freestyle, get it up, the elbow up nice and high, and then just slide in through the entry. Energy conservation.
Yeah. And now, so that's butterfly. What about backstroke?
Head position for sure, but most people would know or at least heard of that. But like for those that haven't, like it's a tricky stroke because you can't see where you're going. So people have a tendency to just lift their head up too much. So I go on the side here, like lift up, and they're either looking down at their toes or they're looking at the lane rope, or maybe they're looking to see that who's behind them. And it just will just drop their hips. Like, if your head's up, like if you go watch the form stroke videos, we actually do one of the drills where um, lifting the head out of the water, kicking for half a lap, and then kicking with like letting the head rest back, and you see like visually perfect, like the hips as the head goes back, the hips just lift up. And just if your hips are in the water, okay, let's say that's the head, and you've got your head up and your hips are down. You're either carrying water on your hips and trying to move through the water, or your body's on an arc and like the water's just like you're just pushing through too much water. Get the head down. The hip should come up a little bit. Obviously, it's also tied to how big your kick is as well. But like if you think like head back, toes up to the surface, you're generally going to have a much better body position.
And it's essentially like the face that you just want out of the water, right? Like a lot of people have their ears out. You've got to cover the ears when you're doing backstroke.
Yeah, well, you like think like the water's like cutting down the side of your face, like like it's kind of like slicing off your ears almost. That's like a really good like position to be in.
And I think a really sort of basic thing there is that a lot of people have goggles that don't allow them to see peripherally enough when they're swimming, and so they have to like look down to see where they're going. And I'm talking from like experience as well. I've got different sets of goggles, and some goggles I just can't see where I'm going, so I either hit the lane rope or I've just got to have my head up. So if you get some goggles that do just allow that vision off to the sides, like I love the Swedish goggles, which I don't think they're cool anymore, but I love the Swedish goggles.
They're always going to be cool. Always.
Yeah.
They'll never not be cool.
They're like, yeah, I still buy them, and I wear them quite a bit. But like they're great for backstroke because they're clear on the sides and you can just see where that lane rope is. So just get the right set of goggles if you do like backstroke and you can't see where you're going. Try something like the Swedish ones, or there are some that do have a bit probably more comfortable for people. But that's just, I think, something that's not spoken about very much.
No, yeah, good point. And I guess it's like, swimmers, if you're growing up in squad swimming, you kind of just learn. Like it's just things that you pick up along the way. But yeah, Swedish goggles, it's great because you can just like dart your eye to the side. You don't have to move your head at all. Just dart the eye, have a look at the lane rope. Yep, still there. Haven't crossed over. I'm not going to hit someone in the head coming the other way, and off you go. But it's repetition as well. Like it's an awkward stroke to do because you can't see. But do you think like how comfortable? If you're not comfortable doing backstroke, how often are you doing backstroke? Because that's a huge thing. Is how like the repetition. Like if the more you do something, the more comfortable you become with it. So I think a lot of it has to do with how many laps of backstroke you're doing compared to freestyle. Like how comfortable are you doing freestyle? Very comfortable because you do so much of it, and you get the bonus of seeing backstroke. Can't see what you're doing, and you don't do not nearly as much to get comfortable with it.
And I think it's a really good stroke to help with your freestyle. Some of the reasons we spoke about, like working the arms in another direction, but the catch is the same, but just on your back, and you're working your kick really well too. And you're really working that, like, well, if it was freestyle, it's up kick, but with backstroke, it's like the down kick sort of thing. You're working it in the other direction really nicely. And it's just good for working on core strength and stability through there too, because backstroke requires good core strength to hold the hips up and the legs up.
Yep.
And that translates really nicely into freestyle as well. So I think, if you can get more comfortable doing backstroke, it's a great one to throw into the mix. Would you say another one, a common mistake that you see is like the entry and recovery for people, like a bent arm coming through rather than a straight arm in line with the shoulder?
Yeah, for sure. And it's so easy. Like, let's see if I can move this up. Like, for whatever reason, like, I guess it's like, it actually takes a bit more effort to like kind of lock your arm or to have a straight arm, like when you want it above your head, like to do that, I've got to like kind of flex and work hard to hold that position. Whereas like if I put my arm up above my head, like if you're asking you got a question for the teacher in the classroom, that probably feels, that for me, that feels comfortable right now.
And for those listening, you've got a bent elbow, your hands sort of crossing your center line and up above your head.
Absolutely. So like, if you're coming over and that's, but that's not a very strong position to be in when you're swimming, cutting across the other line, like, my nose is the center line, my arm and hand is above or across. And then I'll have to like sweep out, no strong catch until it's past my body sort of thing. So trying to like, but it actually comes from the shoulders. So it's like, I like thinking like you're leading your backstroke through your shoulders. So like, say you finish a stroke off, pop the shoulder, let the arm like follow the line of the shoulder. And then as you're at your highest point, you want to sort of drop your shoulder into the water. The opposite shoulder is going to pop out of the water. And just like sort of land your hand to the side of your ear. And that's about, that's perfect catch. I'm not even in the water, but that's like, that works about right. So like lead the stroke through the shoulder, lengthen the arm, like you don't have a relaxed hand, but lengthen the arm as you're coming over, and then just like enter to the side of your ear.
Yeah,
rather than like, just having I guess it's not intentionally lazy, but it's just like, just a bit like when it's just like you don't have that extra effort into like locking your arm out.
And I think, well, first of all, it's from people not knowing what they should be doing, and they think, well, okay, I'm going to bring my arm over. In freestyle, I have a bent elbow, so I'll do the same thing in backstroke. So they come over that way, but it's a slightly different recovery with that straighter arm, elbows locked out a little bit, and then getting it over there. And if you can do that correctly, I find like it just makes your whole body and your stroke so much longer and straighter. Because if you're coming over with these bent arms, there's a lot of wriggle going on, and there's a lot of side to side movement.
Kind of like a disco.
Yeah, that's right. Where I can't think of another analogy for what we want to do with the straight arms, but it's we'll have to come back on that one.
Yeah, let me think about that one.
But that's a big one that I see if I'm coaching backstroke. Let's move on to breaststroke. This is your bread and butter, I think, when it comes to coaching. This is what you're very good at helping people with. So what are some of these common breaststroke mistakes?
We'll go like generic one, and a common one like you asked is the kick. Is the breaststroke kick, and it comes from learn to swim. I don't want we could have a whole podcast about just teaching breaststroke at learn to swim level, but we'll maybe save that for another time. I don't know if too many people want to hear me yap on about breaststroke and learn to swim, but effectively, like when they teach breaststroke at the learn to swim level, like they kind of like they teach the kids to get the heels up to their bum. So come back a little bit. So like, let's pretend they're the knees, they're the feet, hands are the feet, elbows are the knees. They'll like get them to bring their knees out to the side and the heels up to their bottom. Then they'll turn their feet out, and then they'll kick out and then around. Yeah,
like a frog kick. They used to teach those.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a coach's nightmare. That is. I'm real pleased with the how we do the breaststroke kick. And it's really effective. And it's just like, put them on the wall, next to the wall, vertical kick, and then go through the different stages of the breaststroke kick. So like heels up. Okay, get used to heels up, relax, heels up, relax. And then go, okay, what does it feel like when my heels are up, but my knees are still in line with my hips, and then turning the toes out. Okay. And then it's repetition, trying to get their brain to function down to their feet. Okay, knees are still in line with my hips, turning the feet out. All right, then from that position, kick down. What does it feel like to kick down with your knees in line with your hips and your feet turned out? And build them up. So, and like it's such an easy thing to do, and it has such a positive impact with majority of the kids that we're doing it with, because they don't know any different. And then the sad thing is that if they're taught like that, so then in the future when they're 14, 15, 16, they're like, oh, I'm not a breaststroker. No, I can't swim breaststroke because they can't do the kick, or they were taught the kick wrong. Where it's like, no, you can still swim breaststroke. Like breaststroke is probably more about drag reduction than any other stroke. You're trying to minimize the amount of drag you create. So if, like, let's say you're a big, strong person, got really, maybe you're a butterfly and you're really powerful, but you've got like this really wonky breaststroke kick. Well, just do the smallest, tiniest kick that you can get away with. So literally like come up, turn the feet, go back, but then just have a massive upper body stroke. Like that's still breaststroke. You just have a tiny kick and utilize your upper body. But then, yeah.
And the way that you go through the kick at the start of the breaststroke course or the clinics when you're running them is like, it's, when you look at it, it's like, oh, that's really basic. That's really simple.
Yeah.
Except how else are you going to change your breaststroke kick if you don't just break it down? Like, you might be able to change it like that if you think about it, but why not just break it down into this easy way to learn it, where you're on the wall and you're doing it in these sort of 3 or 4 progressions, and just keep it really simple to get used to that movement. And and I think people, when they're watching the videos, they'll be like, oh, this is really simple stuff. But if it was complicated, it's harder to do. You're less likely to get it right. But simple doesn't mean ineffective. In many cases, and I think you knew this coming into it, but in the clinics, you're starting to boil down what are the foundational things that someone needs to know, and what's the simplest way to teach it to them so they get it to click. Because if you give them 6 hours of backstroke drills to do, or breaststroke drills to do, they're not going to do them all. They're going to get confused. So we need to keep it as simple as possible. And I think that's why, like, the 5-day catch challenge that we've had more than 10,000 people do this 5-day course. And I think, and a lot of it's come from word of mouth, because it's so simple the way that we teach it. And so if you can just keep things simple, I think that's where you can get the best results. But sometimes people will look at it and go, oh, it's too simple, that it can't work. Like, or it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
But it's like, quite the opposite.
I don't want to, kind of like mastery in a way, right? Like you don't want it. You're paying a professional to make it as simple for you to understand to get the best result possible. Like, and I'm not saying we're masters, but like, we have been in the sport for a long time. So, there is an element of knowledge that we've developed over time. So, yeah, like you said, simple doesn't mean not effective. It's probably the opposite. The most simple you can make it, the most effective it will be. And then, like anything, it's like, then you put your own flair and style onto it. Like maybe like having your knees that close together is too much. It's not effective for you, but like you can move your knees out slightly wider. Like, and that's where the element of bringing it back to the clinics that we run on the weekends is, like, the onus on you is to explore. Like, I can give you the answers, you can give them the answers, Brenton, but unless they're connected with what their body's doing and willing to try something different, it won't be as effective. And it comes back to what I spoke about with the butterfly. It's, you got to recognize, like, how do you change it? Well, you got to recognize what you're doing first. Like, and so you have to be the one, like, thinking about it and going, oh, this is what it feels like. Oh, this is what, and it feels different now. It feels worse. It feels better. But unless they're engaged with it, we don't get as much impact.
And to finish up here with the podcast, I want to leave people with a couple of key points that they could think about with each of these 3 strokes. So next time they're at the pool, if they're looking to do some breaststroke, what are some sort of simple takeaways, or even cues perhaps, that people could be thinking about next time they get in the pool?
For each stroke?
Yeah, for fly back and breast.
Cool. Oh, one more. I know we're at about a 40 minute mark for the podcast, but the other breaststroke, because I said I'd give two. So the other, the breaststroke thing that I see is just swimmers not going wide, not using the outward sweep to move forward. So they might let their hands drift apart and then on that corner catch out here, move in. But like right from the get go, like the out sweep, they're trying to like make a hole in the water and move through the hole, move through. So that's the other thing. And that's just sculling and identifying, okay, I can use my hands to move forward even though I'm pressing out wide.
So it's more of like you're saying it's more of like a passive movement of the arms, but they're not using it to move themselves forwards with it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, because the upper body breaststroke stroke, the arm is like, I think of it like sailing. Like the boat wants to go that way, but the wind is going that way. So then how does the boat move forward if the wind's going that way? Well, they've got a sail, and the sail catches the wind and pushes the boat forward. So it's same with the hands. Just because you're not planting out the front and pressing behind you doesn't mean you can't move forward. You've just got to change the pitch of your hands. Like that's probably a bit too much, and that's just sliding. So you want to play around with the pitch of your hand and then like move forward with the out sweep. So
a good way I heard, like, and I like that analogy of sailing. One that I heard that's kind of related is it's like a propeller. So a propeller, if you think of like a steamboat, then it's got this like a paddle steamer. It's got these like flat things, and it takes a lot of energy to sort of just move it around, and so it's very inefficient. Then you've got a propeller that's got this sort of curved, it's got the curved blades, and that's helping it move forwards. And it's a similar thing with like your out sweep and your in sweep, where it's like you have this propeller blade to, if you've got the right angles, that's going to actually help you move forwards, like that propeller blade. So similar concept. Yeah.
Like that articulation for sure. Like, and yeah, so they're the two breaststrokes. So all right, so a few tips for each of the strokes. Butterfly. I'd use fins and do short bouts of butterfly. Try to like swim really, really good butterfly, and then as soon as you feel like your technique or your rhythm's going out, stop. Like let's say you're doing like 25s, yards or meters, it doesn't matter. You do 10 25s, but you can only do about 6 strokes before you find your technique goes out of whack. We'll do 5 really, really good strokes and then some easy freestyle to the wall. And then also single arm butterfly, lots and lots of single arm butterfly. Because you can do lots of it. You can do 800 meters of single arm butterfly without not nearly the same like energy expenditure. So that would be my two points. Backstroke would be, for sure, playing around with your head position. And do it wrong. Practice doing it wrong and then practice doing it better and see how the body feels. And then my secret trick that I've been absolutely loving is, and thanks to Ryan Murphy, American backstroker, phenomenal. Like he's like up there with like the best backstrokers of all time. He's in the conversation. I remember listening to an interview or a podcast, and he, from memory, does a lot of backstroke swimming with a pull buoy between his groin, but he's still kicking. So, people think, oh, pull buoy, you're not allowed to kick. Whereas he's like, nah, I still kick. And I was going, what? So yeah, it's phenomenal too, because a lot of people tend to have like too big of a backstroke kick. So it forces them to have a shorter, tighter backstroke kick, which is really good. And it also just gives them that lift of the hips in the water. So they've got a perfect body position.
And that's one of the drills you've got in the program too, I saw.
Yeah, definitely. So that's like one of the best things I've ever seen to help a few different aspects of backstroke. It's such a good little trick.
I've got him on the podcast. I'm recording a podcast with him next week, actually.
Ooh.
So
hit him up over it, please.
I will. Yeah, I'll remember.
Can I be a fanboy and just drop into the podcast and just say hi?
Yeah, we can do an audience and everything.
Cool. So they're the two, backstroke is play with your head position. And if you find that your hips are dropping or you've got your kickers too big, whack a pull buoy and keep going. And also alternate. I know we've got to wrap this up, and I apologize, but like alternate like 225s backstroke swim with a pull buoy, 225s backstroke swim without a pull buoy, but then try to maintain the same technique and same body position and same kick intensity as you did when you did have the pull buoy in. So you're mixing and matching, like baby steps at a time, like that progression that I was talking about. Breaststroke, play around. Yeah, I would like sculling. So like freestyle kick. If you use a snorkel, like front snorkel on, and then play around with like trying to move forward with just the out sweep. Like how far can you move forward? And you don't want to like out sweep so your hands go behind your shoulders. You still want to have like, how far can I go back with these headphones? Like, so if that's your shoulder, like that's in line with your shoulders, you want to definitely go like twice as wide as your shoulders, sort of thing. So, and how far can you move forward with just an out sweep like that?
And like I quite often see a lot of breaststrokers very narrow, like the hands aren't going wider than their shoulders. So you've got to go wider than your shoulders. And then obviously the opposite of that, where people are going too wide and their hands are sort of past their head. So there, for those that are listening and not watching on YouTube, like your hands are not really going back at all there. It's just the out sweep part of it. And just getting used to that turn out of the hands to help. And what angle do you need to help you move forwards there? What angle turn out of the hands? Because a lot of people do just slice. Their palms are down, they're slicing out, and there's no benefit to that whatsoever. So you've got to be that sail or that propeller with the hands to help initiate that movement forwards.
Yeah, well, the equivalent is like karate chopping the water. If you're swimming, imagine swimming freestyle and trying to like karate chop to, like, you have a flat hand, like, to catch all that water. Like, you don't karate chop or slice down because you just wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So that, and then just like a really simple basic one is like, grab your kickboard, hold the kickboard at the back. So you're not gripping on the top of the kickboard, you're holding the kickboard at the back like a pincer grip, and then put your head down in the water and look at your breaststroke kick. Look at it. Like, what does it look like? Are your knees coming out way wider than your hips? Like, okay, then what does it feel like to keep your legs, your knees in line with your hips? And visually look at it and go, okay, oh wow, like my kick's actually pretty narrow, so that's good. Or no, my knees are going out way too wide. I think, like looking and seeing what you're doing gives you that. It's kind of like the video footage, but just in real time.
Yeah, and that visual feedback is very beneficial because most people don't have the proprioception to know exactly what's going on there. So if you can just look down, and we say this at freestyle clinics too, it's like for this part of it, if you're still crossing over in freestyle, look forwards and just check, see if you are, and see if you've corrected it. So you can do the wrong thing, change your head position in the wrong way, but to check whether or not you're doing something correctly. So I think that visual feedback's a great tool that people can use. So Sammy, thank you very much for being on the podcast. It's been great chatting, and really enjoying working with you. And those people that are listening that are members, they will have seen you answering questions inside the membership and in our courses as well. So now they can put a proper face and voice to the name. So
shout out to the members. I really, funnily enough, not funnily enough at all, but like I enjoy actually like reading. Some of them are so insightful, and like you just read them and go, wow, like you'd be a really good athlete to coach. Like, and that's what, like with adults, you get a bit more insight, a bit more what'd you call it? Yeah, just like rapport. Yeah, rapport with the. So I really enjoy like, and then having the feedback to say, oh, thanks, that really worked quite well, or oh, I didn't really understand what you're talking about there. Please explain again, Sam. So yeah, shout out to the members who I've been in comms with, and yeah, thanks for having. I think the last time we did this, Brenton, we were in a car driving back from a surf. It would have been about 10 years ago now, maybe 7 years ago. And I listened back and I was like, oh my gosh, Sam, like your speaking is shocking. Like there were so many ums. I was like, and I was quite embarrassed. So I'm quite pleased. I feel like I've done a better job at articulating myself this time around compared to after post surf, Sam.
There's nothing like listening back and hearing how you sound. I know I've listened back to podcasts and go, you've got to be better at that. Get rid of the ums, get rid of whatever else I'm doing.
Yep.
And there's always room to improve, but you're speaking well. I think you communicate well at clinics, and that communication is a huge tool that you can use to help get your point across. So I'll have to listen back to that podcast, actually. That'll be early days. I started this about 10 years ago, before podcasts were cool. So yeah, it's hopefully we've both gotten better in 10 years' time.
Yeah, I hope so.
So we'll leave it there. And thanks very much for being on the podcast. And I'll get you back on again. You're about to head off to Europe and the US for some time over there, and we'll keep this rolling because I think we've got a lot to talk about.
Oh, always. I look forward to the next one.